Well, good evening, everybody. Or good morning. I don't even know at this point. All I know is it's past my bedtime. Some of you probably are wondering what exactly you walked into tonight. What kind of party it is that we have going on here. There ain't no party like a Catholic party. The Catholic party never stops. But speaking of parties, there was an op-ed in the New York Times earlier this week entitled, "New York's Hottest Club is the Catholic Church." And I bet there's more people here tonight than at Summit or Brothers downtown. But there's a lot of talk about a resurgence, a revival, you could say, in Christianity. A lot of talk about more and more people interested in the faith. Now, I don't know if it's true or not. As a priest, I sure hope it's true. But as a priest, I also every day get to sit with people and watch how God is active in individual people's lives, reviving them one by one. And so the numbers ultimately don't really matter all that much. But this question, is there revival? Perhaps it's true. I'm humbled by how full this church is on Sunday mornings. I'm humbled by looking on this past week at how many people participated in our Holy Week liturgies, at how many people showed up for confession these last couple of mornings. I thought I'd have 10 people yesterday. There were 85. All of it makes me want to become a better priest. I'll keep trying. But if there is truth to the claim, there is a renewed interest, there's a resurgence in the faith today, why might that be the case? There's probably a lot of reasons we could try and pinpoint, but I think the reason might be this. The church is the only thing in your life right now telling you that you can have hope. The church is the only thing in your life right now telling you that you can have hope with all of its warts and all of its scars. That is what it's been doing for 2,000 years. Now, ours is not a time too dissimilar from previous times, but ours is a time that is quite unique. And I think there's a question burning on a lot of people's hearts and minds these days, and that question is about meaning. Meaning. Is there anything more to all of this, or is this world all there is? Many years ago, the Russian novelist Leo Tolstoy posed the question this way: is there any meaning to my life that my inevitable death will not destroy? Just last month, a Gallup poll showed that a record low number of American adults believe that they will have a high standard of life in 5 years. 2 years ago, the CDC reported that 40% of American teenagers report that they suffer from a persistent feeling of sadness and hopelessness. But we have a message of hope. And why and how can we have hope? Because he is risen. He is risen indeed. From that first moment 2,000 years ago when those women encountered that empty tomb, they have been proclaiming this message of hope. And that message of hope has rung through the centuries, and it is ringing in our ears tonight that Jesus Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. And this gives us hope because if God can take something like that, the crucifix, and turn it into a resurrection, what can't he do? If Jesus got up and walked out of his tomb, everything is going to be okay. God is not looking at all of the issues and problems that stand outside of us, such as war and disease and injustice, or the things that sit inside of us, like loneliness and anxiety and fear, and wondering if any of it's going to have a happy ending. There is no tear that will go unwiped. There is no death that will have the final word. There is no war that will not one day be ended. There is no relationship drama in your life that cannot be healed. Jesus' resurrection tells us that we have a reason to have hope. And this night, Jesus Christ is standing with you at your cross or inside your tomb, and he's telling you that the worst thing is never the last thing. The worst thing is never going to be the last thing. You might be sitting there saying, "Nice pep talk, Father." But is it true? Can the life, the death, and the resurrection of a Middle Eastern man 2,000 years ago still truly be a source of hope in my very particular, very unique, very difficult situation of my life in 2026? Our Christian message does not stand on the strength of our words. It does not stand on the strength of our ideas. Our Christian message rises or it falls on the reality of the events that we say we believe in. C.S. Lewis put it this way: if untrue, Christianity is of no importance. But if true, Christianity is of infinite importance. The only thing Christianity cannot be is moderately important. Those women who went to the tomb this morning were not credulous religious fanatics. They were grieving women expecting a stench. But then they saw something. They encountered something. And they began to share what they saw and what they encountered to the disciples. And then they run to the tomb and they saw and they encountered something. And they began to testify to what they saw, what they encountered. And they changed. And they changed the world. If you choose not to believe in the resurrection of Jesus, you're going to have to make other leaps of faith to explain how this motley crew of poor peasant Jewish people changed the world. But the biggest decisions we make in life are not by us just surveying the cold, hard facts. You did not decide you were going to marry your spouse just by doing some left brain reasoning. No, the biggest decisions we make in life are not just by studying the facts, they're by looking inside at ourselves. And I think here too, if we look inside, we find already in us a proof of Jesus' resurrection. The author Cormac McCarthy, in his novel The Road, tells the story of a father and a son who find themselves in a post-apocalyptic world. Sensing that the end is near, the father takes his son and they find a place to rest. And while they're there and the son is sleeping, the father is looking at his son and he begins to weep. We learn that the source of his tears is not the prospect of death. The father is not entirely sure why he's crying, but he thinks. He has a hunch that he's crying because of goodness and beauty. Look, I sit with a lot of people who are asking that very human question, why is there so much bad in our world? And why so often does that bad intersect with my own life? And that's a legitimate question. But I think the more important question, the more pressing question for us to ask ourselves is, why is there so much goodness and beauty in our world? Or at the very least, why do I desire goodness and beauty? What's with that? Why do I desire that war yields to peace? And why do I desire that death yields to life? And why is it that I desire that despair yield to hope? It would make no sense for us to have a desire for a non-existent thing. That desire for life, that desire for goodness, that desire for beauty is already God speaking to you from your heart. And the message of tonight is that our God has found a way to go from death to life, and it's through the resurrection of his Son, Jesus Christ. Now, tonight is not just about thinking about an idea. No, tonight is about encountering a person in whom our hope is to be found. Just like those grieving women who were headed to the tomb and were met by hope himself. Just like those two disciples on the road back to Emmaus, thinking that the Christian life was good for nothing anymore. They're the first fallen away Christians. And who meets them on that road? Hope himself. In their questions, he meets them. And then there's Peter, who for several hours now has been sitting in his shame. And then he hears about the empty tomb and he thinks, is there hope for me? And he runs after it and he meets hope himself. Peter, do you love me? In our grief, in our questions, in our shame, hope wants to meet us. Hope wants to encounter you. Hope is the person of Jesus Christ. Family, I'm going to encourage us that this Easter hope never die in you. There's a lot of things out there that want to deaden this hope. Tomorrow's Monday, and with that comes all of the concerns, all of the needs of your everyday life. But can you approach that Monday from the vantage point of an empty tomb? Can you see how Jesus' resurrection wants to inform everything that you think about, every action that you do? Because we are not people who live without hope. No, we have been given hope in the fullest way. A couple of years ago, a good friend of mine, a lifelong friend, got married. Her dad was unable to attend her wedding because he was nearing the end of his battle with cancer. But he had someone write his father of the bride's speech and then read it at the reception. And I will never forget the line that he opened his speech with. He started with this, written from his deathbed. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. These are Easter words that are meant to be ringing in your ears every single day of your life, because our Lord has found a way to give us hope.